What's up everyone, it is Riley, Lacrosse Unlimited, and we are back with another custom stringing for you. We went downstairs into the dye room and we picked out one of you lucky customers to have your stringing actually recorded. So today we have the Gracely family from South Carolina ordering up a Hammer 1K in our chrome pink with some Hero 4 and an all white stringing. So let's get into that and let's check out how we string a pocket for this one. So to start off, stringing every stick, stretch out the mesh as much as you can. Don't go crazy because obviously pounding in the pocket later on will do it for you, but just makes things a little easier to go through if your mesh is already pre-stretched. With that being said, thank you to ECD and the boys over down in Baltimore for making another piece of phenomenal mesh that's super easy to string and work with. So getting started with the hammer here. Defensemen don't get any love, so we decided to pull a defensive stick because we've done a lot of offensive pockets and thought it was your turn. Doesn't hurt that the exclusive chrome pink from Lacrosse Unlimited is actually the one that they ordered here, so another thing we get to show off in the time being. So simple top string as always, starting with that double loop start because STX holes are perfectly sized. Same thing as always, making our two anchors that are reversing facing each other. That way they lay nice and symmetrical. I'm going to do that floating top string that you'll see a lot of our pockets have. It's a twist on regular top strings, just a little bit different to where we think the mesh lays very flat and it's a little more efficient in terms of speed and keeping things moving as we've gotten absolutely throttled this holiday season. So we've cranking out top strings. We have an actual top string specialist who is able to do, I think, 3 to 5 top strings in a minute or something. I don't know. We haven't clocked them in a while, but things have been going good in the dye room. Stringing sticks has never gotten old for us, and we're happy to please all our customers with consistent and very custom sticks. So making my way across using all 6 top string holes. Once you get to the middle here, we're actually going to skip the middle one. So that way we use 3 on each side. Keeping it moving. It's like you're making an L and a reverse L, nice and easy for this. Making our way through, back through the mesh. So just to break it down, we're going down through the mesh. And now instead of coming all the way to the back of the mesh, we're actually going to do both of our anchors here before we actually go back through. So we'll do our forward, backward, and then it will come straight back up to the mesh, hug it through, and then we'll do it one more time to end it off. Chrome sticks have come and gone and come again, and we've sold out of multiple batches left and right. No matter what company stick you're going with, the chrome versions have been flying off the shelves in stores. We've been receiving countless online orders for the holidays, and realistically, ever since we released these things, they've been hard to keep track of in our warehouse based on the fact that once they're in, they're pretty much headed out. So if you're interested in getting a super custom stick like this, obviously the chrome option is a little more flashy, but it's something we like to have fun with, and we're proud to offer these chrome heads exclusively at Lacrosse Unlimited. Finishing off with our reverse loop start, or loop finish if you want to call it. Tie off with a double knot and call it a day for the top string. So now we see with the top string with those 6 points, again, not necessary. The traditional 1, 2, 3, 4 would have done just fine, but based on the fact that I cut the string extra long, I wanted to have a little more fun. So we're going to anchor all 6 of those, and now we'll move on to the sidewalls. And so it's going to be nice and easy. Start with our loop. Again, STX having the perfect size sidewall holes, we get to just go through this twice, make sure it stays super tight, super consistent, won't loosen up over time. We've always enjoyed that. So 2 loops all the way through, constantly pulling all the tension out and then holding it as you go through. For a mid pocket, for the hammer, we're gonna actually skip a hole and tie a knot. So we'll go outside the plastic, up through the mesh, and then down through the top of that loop that we had left there. Now we'll do 1 more of those on the next hole. Another knot, nice and easy. We'll go down, do another one, 3 in a row. Traditional knots, pulling the rest of that slack out. And now I'm actually gonna pull all the way down, skipping 1 hole, 1 more knot to create the real emphasis of that channel. So pulling down to about center way of the head, and that's where we will finish it off with the beginning tie downs. I like going to the other side, matching it up halfway, just because this is where you get to kind of see where the pocket's gonna start and where you can really dial in where you want your knots to lay. So we'll go through with that loop start again. 2 as per always. If you can do it, go for it. No one's gonna say no to a more consistent pocket, so. 2 of those. Now again, we'll do 3 in a row, skipping, the first one skipping 1 hole. Go there. Tie that nice and tight. And again, I'm holding these last knots I strung just to keep sure, you know, making sure none of that tension comes out. Pulling the next one, skipping no holes. STX has this nice sidewall rail on the hammer to where the knots can all lay pretty flush on there. So I like making sure that you'll see here, all this string is pulling to the outside. When I'm pulling it through, I just make sure it comes back to the back of the stick. Now for the last knot, we're gonna skip 1 hole and really hammer in that channel. Ooh, I like the wordplay there, that was good. Hammer in, that was fine. Okay, so now we'll see, we're halfway through the stick. We have a flat top here, but obviously breaking the pocket in, we'll see that that channel will start to form. So now we're gonna go with a mid pocket. I'm gonna start with a 1 down through the back of the mesh. I'm gonna keep things super simple for this stick. And then we'll tie our anchor. Now I'm gonna do a double. So that literally just means down through the mesh once, down through the mesh a second time. What I like to do is pull the string and really push the mesh all the way up. Just anchor this down here. So we'll do a 1 here, back of the mesh, tie it off. Make sure you're yanking all the slack out. And then we'll go through and do a double. So back of the mesh twice. Now we'll go through the stick, outside, pull it through, down through the top of this last loop, constantly pulling the mesh up. That's just something I like to do. Now I'm gonna do another 1. For this, you can kind of see where you wanna go. So if I pull that string out and I push it up, I'll see that stick's gonna have a mid pocket. So I'm gonna tie that 1 more, skipping no holes right there. So now technically we're bunching up 4 holes of mesh all near each other with the first one, the double, and then another 1. Mesh the other side. Now moving from here to keep the stick with a mid pocket. A mid pocket usually is able to shift a little high, shift a little low, which is great, but we want it to really sit in that middle spot and kind of sit like a rock. So I'm gonna now tie a 1, skipping 1 hole to make sure the pocket doesn't drag too low. It doesn't get too deep. Tie this off. So skipping 1 hole, just another 1. Show you on this side, same thing. We'll go back to the mesh, pull the string all the way through, push the mesh up. We'll skip 1 hole, tie it off. So now we can see, once you get all that slack out, again, constantly checking just as you're stringing it through. Now I'll be able to tie off 1 last knot. I'm gonna go down through the back of the mesh. You can go here. I'm gonna skip this last hole and I'm gonna go all the way down to the bottom and I'm gonna do a loop finish. Now again, trial and error. I mean, I've just been stringing the entire day, so I'm used to it and I could tell that this pocket's gonna be just fine. But you can go back through, change any of the knots. If you want it to sit a little higher, sit a little lower. I think this one's gonna work just fine for the hammer. So now same thing on the other side, go down through the last part, skipping that 1 hole, down through the last and final one, loop it through again, and tie it off nice and easy. So now, just based off the eyeball test, I'm pretty happy with where this is gonna end up. I'm gonna cut and burn all my extra string. So take this sidewall for the top string that we had, cut these nice and even. Throw those in the garbage later. Now, simple, burn them, make sure they don't fray away. Gets annoying on the field after a while if they do. And we're good from there. Before we put our bottom string in, I'm going to take my trusty piece of wood that is for a sport that we do not like as much as this one, and we're gonna just use it and break the pocket in. So nothing crazy here. Couple rocks, make sure all the mesh is stretched out, put a little muscle into it. Not that I have much, but you know, really lean into it. And now we can see where that ball is gonna sit. So if I drop a ball in there, it's gonna sit in that deepest part. And yeah, I'm aware it's super illegal right now. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Not gonna stay like that once we get the bottom string in there. So we're going to take this last string that I just cut off. Whatever was left of the top string was actually the perfect size for a bottom. So now for our bottom string, so I will just go up through this 10 diamond row. I'm gonna count 2 in, so 1, 2. I'm gonna go in through here, and now I'm just gonna weave it all the way through. So up, down, up, down, up, down, till we get to the other side where we leave 2 out on the other side as well. Now look at the bottom, making sure I'm keeping this string nice and even for both sides. Simple. So the ball can shift a little lower. I like tying my bottom strings off underneath the stick, and then we'll actually just come down through each side to finish it off. So we'll go down through this, pull these nice and tight. Now I get to see depth-wise where I want to put this pocket. So I think this is pretty good. Might be a little deep, so now I just get to pull these 2 strings, get the depth in a little bit, and now I think that's looking pretty good. Just about a ball's depth. So I will take this, I'll tie it extra tight. And then once we're done with our bottom strings, we get to break it in a little more just to make sure that everything's sitting nice and flush. So because, again, STX has this extra room with their bottom string holes as well, I like to just loop them through one more time, make sure it stays super tight. Tie an extra double knot. On the left. Make sure all these strings lay out of the way. One more on the right. I think pockets should be strung to where the sidewalls determine how deep your pocket is, and then the bottom string makes minor adjustments. So now we have a pretty decent mid pocket. Ball's gonna be able to shift low, shift a little higher. So now the final thing, they called for a single cotton shooter and 1 nylon. So we'll go with this. They chose the hot pink, which actually goes pretty cool with the chrome. So we'll go down here. I like looking at the front of the stick and seeing that 4-inch mark. From the top of the scoop down 4 inches, that's where you can have your last shooting string. So it's usually the 10 diamond row or 1 more 9 diamond, somewhere in those first 3 pull downs. So seeing this stick, I'm gonna go with this 9 diamond row. So if you count down the side, 1, 2, 3, I'll just go with the 9 diamond row right below it. I'm gonna loop the shooter around the side. So you take the back one, you weave it all the way through. There's a more simple way of doing this where you're doing the weaving as you go, but I like just breaking this down, making sure the string can lay super flat. Now, you alternate front and back, top and bottom. So the front, I went over the top, the back, I go down through the bottom. And I just go back and forth, weaving the string all the way through, constantly making sure it stays flat, keeping it clean, keeping it moving all the way down, up, down, left, right, center, front, back, whatever you gotta do. So now that we're down to the other side, I just like making sure I put my fist in here, rock all the slack out, and make sure it's laying flat. If I see there's any bunching anywhere, I'll go back through and I'll make sure it lays nice and flat. So we have that all set. I'm comfortable with that, it looks good. So I'm gonna tie a simple loop knot to finish it off. Tie that nice and tight. The lower the shooters are in your stick, the looser you want them. So I always start with the bottom one as loose as humanly possible. And then as we move the way up towards the scoop, the strings get a little tighter. Now we have our nylon that they called for. This one, we're gonna go through the next 9 diamond row. So I'm gonna use the sidewall that's open. Now the nylon here, you'll see I'll just do that traditional weaving because it's a lot easier with these because these can't really twist. So now, same thing, weaving the stick all the way across, keeping the front on top, back on the bottom. It's just how I've done it forever. Weaving through nice and quick, making sure we hit every single diamond all the way across from left to right. And now we'll go out through that same sidewall hole we finished on the other side where we started. So now, put a little fist in there, make sure it doesn't lip too much. If you have this too tight, you yank it all the way, ball is gonna hit it and go straight into the ground. So we wanna have it consistently straight through the stick, tight but not anchored down to where it's gonna yank that ball all the way to the floor. Tie our little loop finish. Now here with the knot, you get to play with the tension a little bit. All right, I think that's good. So I get to just make sure that knot sits nice and flush, take all the slack out. Last but not least, cut them, burn them, keep it out of your face. Grab my handy dandy torch. And would you look at that? The Graceleys now to South Carolina, you have your Hammer 1K heading down south. So if you're interested in stringings like this with consistent custom sticks getting pumped out by Lacrosse Unlimited, make sure you subscribe to our channel. To make sure you like this video, comment down below what different sticks you would like to see. Take one of these, get on the field, and we will see you there.